She posted, "When you realize you deserve better chart increasing," with a photo of us. I liked it, commented, "You're absolutely right." Then I changed my relationship status, packed my things, and left. Her DMs started exploding when people noticed my follow-up post. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. You always make everything about yourself, you know that. She said it without looking up from her phone. Just tossed it out there, casual, like she was reading the weather. I was standing in the kitchen, holding 2 cups of coffee I'd made for us. Her favorite blend. The one I drove 20 minutes to get because the grocery store near us stopped carrying it. And she said that, without even looking at me. I set her cup down on the counter quietly. Didn't say a word. Walked back to my side of the apartment and sat down. And I remember thinking, not anger, not hurt, just this flat, exhausted thought. How much longer can I keep doing this? We had been together for 3 years. Her name was Cassie, 28, marketing coordinator. Beautiful in a way that made strangers do double takes. I was 31, software developer. Worked from home. We'd been living together for 14 months. And somewhere in that 14 months, something had quietly broken. Not loudly. Not with one big fight or one catastrophic moment. Just slowly. The way a rope frays. You don't notice each individual thread snapping. You just look one day and realize it's barely holding. That coffee morning was a Tuesday. By Saturday, she had posted the photo. But let me take you back. Because you need to understand what the weeks before that Saturday actually looked like. You need to feel it. Because when you hear what I did, I want you to understand it wasn't impulsive. It wasn't dramatic. It was the most deliberate, calm decision I have ever made in my life. Cassie had always been what I'd call emotionally selective. Meaning, she was warm when she wanted something. Cool when she didn't. In the beginning, I read that as depth. I thought she was just guarded. I thought patience was the answer. I'm telling you that right now so you understand. I wasn't naive. I saw the signs early. I chose to stay anyway. That part's on me. 3 months before the photo, she started what I can only describe as a campaign. Not against me exactly. More like a campaign to reframe who I was. It started small. At her friend Bree's birthday dinner, she told a story about how I'd embarrassed her at a grocery store. The story was that I'd argued with a cashier. I hadn't argued. I'd politely pointed out that we'd been overcharged. But the way Cassie told it, I was apparently red-faced and irrational. Bree looked at me with this particular expression, the kind people use for lost causes. I didn't correct Cassie at dinner. I figured I'd talk to her about it later. Later never came. Because every time I tried to bring it up, she pivoted. You're too sensitive. It wasn't a big deal. Why are you still on this? You always twist what I say. I learned to stop bringing things up. And I think that's what she was counting on. 2 months before the photo, something shifted more visibly. Cassie started talking about a guy from her office. His name was Reed. She brought him up constantly. Reed made this joke at the meeting today. It was so funny. Reed sent everyone this article. Have you read it? Reed and I grabbed lunch. He has such good taste in restaurants. I'm not a jealous person by nature. I want to be clear about that. I didn't spiral into accusations. I didn't go through her phone. I just noticed. I noticed how animated she got. How she'd look up from her phone smiling after what I now know were his messages. How she'd volunteer information about him before I even asked. I noticed. And I stayed quiet. Because every time in the past that I'd expressed discomfort, I became the problem. So I observed. I kept my mouth shut. And I kept showing up. 6 weeks before the photo, she stopped saying, "I love you" first. I'm not even sure she noticed. But I did. Because I counted. 14 days in a row where I said it and she just said, home. Or, "Yeah, you too," and kept scrolling. I'm not proud of the fact that I counted. It felt desperate, even to me. But I was looking for data. I was looking for something concrete to hold up and say, this is what's wrong. Because everything felt like fog. Nothing I could point to was clear enough to be undeniable. Just this constant low hum of wrongness that she'd always find a way to explain away. A month before the photo, I tried. I sat her down on a Sunday afternoon, no phones, just us. I told her I felt like we were drifting. I told her I missed feeling like a team. I told her I wanted to work on it, that I was willing to do whatever it took, that I wasn't trying to blame her. I just wanted us back. She listened. She nodded at the right moments. And then she said, "I think you have intimacy issues from your past that you're projecting onto us." I blinked. "Cassie, I'm telling you I feel disconnected from you. And I'm telling you that's something you need to work through. I can't fix your insecurities. I sat with that for a second. You think this is about my insecurities. I think you get anxious when things are going well and you self-sabotage. You've done it before. She said it so clinically, like she'd rehearsed it or read it somewhere. I didn't argue. I just nodded, said okay, and inside, something quietly went cold. 3 weeks before the photo, I stopped initiating conversation, affection, plans. I didn't announce it. I didn't do it to punish her. I did it because I genuinely wanted to see what happened when I stopped carrying the entire weight of our dynamic. What happened was nothing. She didn't notice for 4 days. On day 5, she looked up from her laptop and said, "Why are you being weird?" "I'm not being weird. You've been quiet. I've just been working." She looked at me for a moment, then looked back at her laptop. Okay, that was it. That was the entire exchange. 4 days of silence from me, and the response was okay. I went to bed that night and lay there staring at the ceiling. Not crying, not angry, just sitting inside this very still, very quiet realization. She's not worried about losing me. She doesn't think she can lose me. That's the whole problem. 2 weeks before the photo, she came home late on a Wednesday. I'd made dinner. It was sitting there, covered, on the counter. She came in, dropped her bag, and went straight to the bedroom. I gave her a few minutes, then knocked. "Hey, dinner's ready if you're hungry." "I already ate." "Oh, okay. You didn't text." "I didn't know. I didn't think I had to text you every time I ate." I stood in the doorway. "I made dinner for us." "I told you. I didn't know you were making anything." "You didn't ask." She looked at me then, and I saw something in her face that I recognized but had never named before. Irritation, not at a situation, at me, just at the fact of me being there, existing, taking up space in her eyeline. Like I was an inconvenience. "Can you close the door? I'm on a call." There was no call. Her phone was face down on the bed. I closed the door. I stood in the hallway, and I thought, I am being gaslighted inside my own home. 1 week before the photo, she started her growth era content. That's what she called it. Cassie had a decent Instagram following. Nothing massive, maybe 12,000 people. But she was consistent, she was good at it, and her audience was engaged. She started posting about knowing your worth, about releasing what no longer serves you, about choosing peace over comfort. Vague enough to mean anything. Specific enough that I felt every single one. I didn't say anything. I liked the posts. I left supportive comments. Because I was still trying. Even then, even at that point, I was still trying. And then came Saturday, the day of the photo. We'd taken that photo 3 weeks earlier, actually, at her coworker's outdoor barbecue. We were standing in front of a string light setup, and someone had snapped us without asking. She'd grabbed the photo off the group chat, said she loved how the lighting hit. In the photo, she's laughing. I'm looking at her, not at the camera, at her. And honestly, looking at it now, it's a good photo. It's the kind of photo that looks like a couple who's in love, which I suppose is what made it so perfect for what she used it for. I was at my desk that Saturday morning, working through a bug in a project. My phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Cassie tagged you in a post. I clicked it. The photo loaded. The one from the barbecue. Me looking at her while she laughed. And the caption. When you realize you deserve better, chart increasing growth looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's a career move. Sometimes it's a mindset shift. Sometimes it's just finally being honest with yourself about what you've been settling for. Here's to choosing yourself, always. I read it twice. Then I looked at the photo again. The one where I'm looking at her like she's the best thing in the room. I sat very still for a moment. And then I did something that surprised even me. I laughed. Not bitter. Not forced. Just this short, genuine exhale of a laugh. Because something about it was almost poetic. She'd used a photo of my face, my actual face, looking at her like that, to announce to 12,000 people that she deserved better than me. She'd made me the evidence in her own case against me. And the thing was, she wasn't entirely wrong. She did deserve better, just not in the direction she was thinking. I went to the post. I hit like. I sat there for a second, fingers hovering. And then I typed my comment. You're absolutely right. Posted it. Put my phone face down. And went back to my code. For about 40 minutes, I just worked. Focused. Clear-headed. Which was unusual, actually. Because the last several months I'd been doing everything with this low-grade anxiety humming underneath. This constant low-level dread. But in that 40 minutes? Gone. Completely gone. Like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. After 40 minutes, I opened my phone again. 14 notifications. Her followers had started commenting on her post. Things like, "You got this, queen," and "finally putting yourself first," and Let him know his worth isn't your responsibility. A few people had noticed my comment. One person wrote, "Wait, is that her boyfriend commenting?" Another one, "Hold on. Is he agreeing?" Plot twist. I smiled, closed the app, and opened Facebook. I changed my relationship status from in a relationship to single. No announcement, no post, just the status change. Then I put my phone back down and did something I had been preparing for mentally for 2 weeks without fully admitting it to myself. I went to the closet, pulled out 3 bags, and started packing. Calmly, methodically, clothes first, then my equipment, the external hard drives, the monitors, the cables, then the things that mattered to me personally. A book my father had given me, a print I'd bought at a market years before I met Cassie, my grandmother's watch that I kept in a small wooden box on the dresser. I packed deliberately, not frantically. I wasn't running. I wasn't escaping. I was just leaving, with intention. It took me about 2 hours. Cassie wasn't home. She'd gone out that morning. Brunch, she'd said, though she hadn't invited me, and I hadn't asked. By the time I had the bags by the door, I'd also texted my friend Nate. "Hey, I need to crash at yours for a bit. Is that okay?" His response came back in under a minute. "Yeah, obviously. You good?" "Yeah, better than I've been in months actually." Say no more. Doors unlocked. That's Nate. No drama. No 20 questions. Just doors unlocked. Some people are irreplaceable. I left my key on the kitchen counter, next to a short note. Not a letter. Not a manifesto. Just a note. It said, "I saw the post. You were right. I left my key. I've taken everything that's mine. Take care of yourself." Me? I signed it me because it seemed appropriate. We'd become strangers in our own apartment. Strangers sign off with me. I carried my bags down 3 flights of stairs, loaded them into my car, sat in the driver's seat for a moment. The sun was doing that thing it does in the early afternoon, cutting across the dashboard at an angle, sharp and gold. I remember thinking, I've been inside that apartment for 14 months, and I don't think I noticed the sun like this once. I started the car, and I drove. I was about 12 minutes from Nate's place when my phone started going. Not buzzing. Going. Continuous. I didn't touch it. I drove the 12 minutes. Parked. Brought my bags in. Nate made coffee without being asked, which is exactly why I called him. I sat down at his kitchen table, and I picked up my phone. 47 notifications. Instagram alone. Cassie had seen my comment, and apparently people had noticed not just the comment, but the Facebook status change, because someone had screenshotted it and commented it under her post. With the caption, "Girl, he literally updated his status." That comment had 93 likes. And then there were the DMs. From Cassie, 15 messages in 45 minutes. The first few were disbelief. "What the hell is this comment? Are you serious right now? You changed your Facebook status? Like an actual child? Call me. Now." Then confusion shifted into something sharper. "I can't believe you're doing this over a caption. It wasn't even about you. Why are you making this about you? This is literally so typical." Then a longer one. "You know what? I posted that because I've been doing a lot of reflecting and I needed to express something, and if you took it personally, that says more about your guilt than anything I wrote. I wasn't even thinking about you when I wrote it. This is embarrassing. You're embarrassing both of us." I read that one 3 times. She wasn't even thinking about me. When she posted a photo of my face, with a caption about not settling, she wasn't thinking about me. Right. Then came the panic. "Where are you? Are you at the apartment?" "I'm coming home. I called the apartment. You're not picking up. Are you even there?" Then she got home, found the key, found the note, and the messages changed completely. "You left. You actually left. Your stuff is gone. I can't believe you actually packed your things and left. Call me right now. This isn't funny." I put my phone face down on Nate's table. He set a mug in front of me. "How bad?" 15 DMs. He let out a low whistle. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing right now." He nodded. "Drink your coffee first." I drank my coffee. Here's what I didn't tell Cassie in that 45-minute window. Here's what she didn't know. 3 days earlier, that Wednesday, the one where she came home late and told me she'd eaten without telling me, I'd had a conversation that changed everything. Not with her. With myself. Sort of. I'd been on a call with my older brother, Callum. He lives across the country. We talk maybe once a month, sometimes less. But something about the call made me honest in a way I hadn't been with anyone. He'd asked how things were. And instead of saying fine, I told him the truth. I told him about the dinner getting cold. I told him about the Instagram posts. I told him about the Reed situation, the comments she made in public, the conversation where she told me my feelings were just my insecurities projected. Callum is not an emotional guy. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Are you happy?" Simple question. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried again. "I want to be." "That's not what I asked." Another pause. "No, I'm not happy." "Okay," he said. "Okay. What are you going to do about it?" And that was the conversation. That was the whole thing. But something about being asked that directly, by someone who wasn't in it, who had no stake, who just loved me, cracked something open. I'd spent months looking for permission from Cassie to feel what I felt, and she'd never given it, because she needed me to doubt myself. That was the only way the dynamic worked. I also hadn't told Cassie about what I'd seen 3 weeks before the photo. At that barbecue, the one where the photo was taken, I'd stepped away to use the bathroom, and on my way back, I passed the side of the house. Cassie was standing there, laughing, leaning against the wall, talking to Reed. They weren't touching, nothing explicit, but I stood there for a second and watched. And the way she was laughing, that was the laugh she used to use with me. The unguarded one, the real one, the one I'd spent 3 years trying to earn more of. She was using it freely, easily, with him. I didn't walk up. I didn't make it a scene. I went back inside, got myself a drink, waited until she came back. And when she came back, she was warm. She came and found me, slipped her arm through mine, and introduced me to some of her other colleagues. Like nothing had happened. And I thought, maybe nothing had. Maybe I was reading too much into a laugh. But I remembered it. I tucked it away. And 3 weeks later, when she posted that photo, the one taken that very same night, with that caption, every piece of information I had assembled over months clicked into place. Not like an explosion, like a quiet click, the kind of sound a lock makes when it opens. By Sunday morning, I had crafted my own post. I want to be clear about something before I tell you this part. I did not do it for revenge. I did not do it to humiliate her. I did it because I believe in telling the truth. And the truth was something I'd been swallowing for a very long time. I posted on both Instagram and Facebook. Just text. No photo. The caption read, "Sometimes someone else says it best, so I'll keep this short." She was right. We both deserve better. I hope she finds it. I think I'm already on my way. That was it. That was the whole post. What happened next was not something I expected. Within the first hour, it had more engagement than anything I'd ever posted. Mostly because Cassie's followers had migrated. The people who had been in her comments joking about my comment and my status change, they found this. And something about the tone of it, the restraint of it, the fact that it wasn't bitter or attacking, it landed differently. People started sharing it. Not virally, but steadily. The comments were mostly from strangers. The quiet ones always hurt the most. He handled that with more class than most people would. She posted him as the problem, and he responded as the resolution. Man, what the comments didn't know, what nobody knew except Nate, sitting across from me reading his own phone, was that I was sitting there in my friend's kitchen, in yesterday's clothes, with 3 bags of belongings in a spare room, and no real plan. What looked like composure from the outside was just exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that becomes its own clarity. When you're too tired to perform, what's left is usually the truth. Cassie's DMs had continued overnight. I read them Sunday morning with coffee in hand. The tone had shifted again. "I've been thinking about this all night. I need you to understand the post wasn't meant as an attack on you. I think you completely misread the situation and made a huge decision based on a misunderstanding. Can we please just talk?" Then later, "My friends are asking what happened, and I don't know what to tell them because I don't even understand why you left. Reed texted me, apparently people are talking. This is humiliating. I can't believe you aired our business publicly." That one I had to sit with for a second. I aired our business publicly. She had posted a photo of my face with a caption about settling. I had posted 5 lines of text that didn't mention her by name. But I aired our business. "I think we should talk before this gets more out of hand. You know I still care about you. 3 years doesn't just disappear. Please." That last one, please, was the hardest to read. Not because it changed anything, but because I still remembered loving her. I still remembered the version of us from 2 years ago, before everything calcified into this. She wasn't a monster. She was just someone who had learned to take up all the space in a room, and I had let her. We had built this together. The misery wasn't hers alone. I responded to one message. Just one. "I think we both knew this was coming. I hope the post wasn't hurtful. I genuinely meant it. I do hope you find what you're looking for. I'm not angry. I just needed to be honest, for once, without being redirected. Take care of yourself." She read it. Didn't respond for 40 minutes. Then, for once, you think you've never been honest with me? I put the phone down. That was the last time I engaged. Let me tell you what the next week looked like. Because the Instagram thing faded, as internet moments do. The post got its moment. People moved on. That's the nature of it. What didn't fade was the actual logistics of rebuilding a life. Nate's spare room. Finding a short-term rental. Notifying my landlord. My name was on the lease too. So that was a whole process. Dividing shared subscriptions. The streaming services, the joint gym membership, the meal kit delivery that I'd actually been paying for the last 6 months. All these tiny tethers you don't notice until you're cutting them one by one. The hardest one was the plant. I know how that sounds. But we had this large Monstera plant on the windowsill. I'd bought it about a year in. Cassie had named it. Called it Gerald. I know. But I'd cared for it. Watered it twice a week. Rotated it for even sunlight. Gerald was thriving. I didn't take Gerald when I packed. It hadn't even occurred to me in the moment. But 3 days later, I thought about him. Sitting there on the windowsill. And I felt this specific, quiet sadness. Not about Cassie. About Gerald. Which told me something. Maybe the grief I was capable of in that moment was calibrated to exactly how much I'd actually lost. A plant's worth. 2 weeks after I left, Nate and I were sitting on his balcony. It was one of those evenings that feels like a reward for surviving something. Warm, long, easy light. He handed me a beer. You doing okay? Yeah. Genuinely. You don't have to say genuinely. I know. I said it anyway because I mean it. He was quiet for a moment. She reached out again? Once. Through a mutual. One of her friends texted me to say Cassie wanted to meet up and talk. And I said I wasn't interested in revisiting anything, but I wished her well. Nate nodded slowly. That's very mature. I'm trying. You think she expected you to go back? I took a sip of the beer. I think she expected me to panic. To apologize. To say I overreacted, that I misread the post, that I just needed to calm down and we'd sort it out. Like every other time. Like every other time. He looked at me. What made this time different? And I thought about that. Really thought about it. I stopped being afraid of what leaving would look like. What do you mean? I think I stayed longer than I should have because somewhere underneath everything, I was scared of what it said about me if it didn't work out. Like I'd failed. Or like admitting it was bad meant admitting I'd wasted years. And that felt worse than just continuing. And now I think the years I spent weren't wasted. They just ended. There's a difference. Nate didn't say anything for a second. Then, you've gotten annoyingly philosophical. I laughed. Sorry. No, it's good. Keep going. Here's the thing nobody tells you about leaving a relationship that's been quietly wrong for a long time. The outside world expects grief. They expect you to be wrecked. And when you're not, when you actually feel relief, you start to second guess even that. Am I too detached? Did I not love her enough? Is something wrong with me? I spent about 4 days in that loop. And then I called Callum again. Told him everything. The post. The comment. The status change. The packing. He listened to the whole thing. Then said, "You sound better." I am. Good. I feel like I should feel worse though. Like shouldn't I be devastated? You've been grieving for months, he said. You just didn't know that's what it was. And that hit me somewhere quiet. He was right. The grief hadn't started when I left. It had started the day she stopped looking at me and started looking through me. I'd been carrying it the whole time. By the time I walked out, most of the morning was already done. There's a part of this I haven't told you yet. The part that happened about a month after I left. The part that has nothing to do with Cassie. I found a short-term place. Small. 3rd floor of a building near a park. Quiet street. Big window in the living room that let in afternoon light. I set up my desk under that window. And I started working again. Properly. Not the distracted, anxiety-soaked work I'd been doing for months. Real work. The kind where you get into a problem and 3 hours pass and you don't notice. I hadn't felt that in almost a year. I started walking in the mornings. No particular route. Just out. Coffee from a place around the corner that had mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. A woman worked the morning shift there. She had kind eyes and remembered orders without writing them down. We didn't talk much at first. Just the transactional pleasantries of coffee shop interaction. But one morning, I came in looking rougher than usual. Bad night, bad dream, one of those. She took one look at me and said, "You need an extra shot today." "Is it that obvious?" "Little bit," she said. "You good?" "Getting there." She nodded, handed me the cup. "It takes as long as it takes." She wasn't talking about the coffee. Her name was Ren. I know that because it was on her name tag. And because she told me, a week later, when we actually had a conversation. This isn't a love story. Not yet, anyway. But Ren was the first person outside my immediate circle who treated me like a person who was simply existing and not like a main character in someone else's drama. And that quiet, uncomplicated kindness meant more than I could explain at the time. 6 weeks after I left, I got a final DM from Cassie. One message. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I know things weren't perfect. I know I wasn't always easy to be with. I want you to know I'm working on that. I hope you are too. I read it. Read it again. And then I thought about every conversation where I'd tried to say exactly that. Things aren't perfect. I'm not always easy. I want to work on it. And had been told I was projecting, insecure, self-sabotaging, too sensitive, too much. I thought about Gerald the plant, sitting on a windowsill being neglected or thriving. I'll never know which. I thought about the barbecue and the laugh I used to have, and the photo she chose to use. I thought about 40 minutes of working peacefully at my desk after years of low-grade dread. And I typed back, I'm glad you're reflecting. I am too. Take care. That was it. No door left open. No lingering question. Just an ending that felt like one. I want to be honest about something before I wrap this up. Because this is a story I've told myself in a certain way. And I want to be fair. Cassie wasn't a villain. She was someone who had learned to manage relationships by controlling the narrative, by staying one step ahead of accountability, by making the other person doubt their perception before they could use it against her. She probably didn't even fully realize she was doing it. Patterns that protect us from something in our past have a way of becoming the water we swim in. We don't see it. We just survive. I think she was surviving something. I just became what she was surviving from. And that's not a role I was willing to keep playing. What I did, the comment, the status change, the post, I won't pretend it was purely principled. There was something satisfying about it. I'm human. The quiet guy finally speaking in a language that the audience could see. The controlled exit from someone who had expected me to shrink. There was something in that. I'm owning that. But underneath the satisfaction was something real. I meant what I said. She deserved better. Better than a relationship where she felt the need to broadcast her dissatisfaction to 12,000 strangers rather than have an honest conversation. Better than a version of herself that operated through implication and plausible deniability. We both deserved better. And I was the only one willing to actually do something about it. Nate asked me once, about 2 months later, if I regretted how I handled it. The public comment. The post. The whole thing. I thought about it for longer than I expected. I regret that it got public, I said finally. But not the decision itself? The decision? No, not for a second. What would you have done differently? Probably left earlier. A lot earlier. Before we got to a place where she was posting things like that, and I was commenting things like this. Why didn't you? I exhaled. Because leaving felt like quitting. And I was raised to not quit things. Relationships aren't things. I know that now. He nodded. You know what I keep thinking about, he said. What? She posted a photo where you're literally looking at her like she's the only person in the room. Yeah. And she used it as evidence that she deserved better. Yeah. That's kind of a lot. It's a whole lot, I said. And we both sat with that for a second. Here's where I am now. It's been a few months. I have a small apartment I actually like. I work at a desk next to a window, and I notice the sun. I walk in the mornings. I have coffee at the place with mismatched chairs. Ren still remembers my order. We talk a little more now. Nothing dramatic. Just the slow, normal accumulation of being two people who are kind to each other consistently. Which, I've learned, is a more radical thing than it sounds. My brother called last week. You sound different, he said. Different how? Like yourself. Like the version of you from before. I didn't know what to say to that for a second. Is that good? It's very good. I've thought a lot about why I handled it the way I did. The comment. The post. Why I didn't just quietly pack and leave and never say a word publicly. And I think the answer is this. For months, I'd been told that what I saw wasn't what I saw. That what I felt wasn't real. That my perception was colored by insecurity. The public record was the one thing that couldn't be revised. She posted. I commented. The timestamp existed. The status change was documented. And my follow-up post said what I felt, plainly, without drama, without attack. It was the first time in a long time that my version of events existed somewhere she couldn't reach it. Somewhere she couldn't reshape it. That mattered to me, more than I expected. If you're reading this, or listening to this, wherever you found it, and something in it sounds familiar, the fog, the low-grade wrongness, the exhaustion of trying to make someone acknowledge what's right in front of them. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I stayed too long in something that had quietly stopped working. And when I finally left, I didn't fall apart. I opened, like that window in the stuffy room. She posted a photo of me looking at her like she was everything. And she was right. She deserved better than being looked at like that by someone whose feelings were being quietly dismissed. She deserved someone who chose her loudly, every day, and was chosen back. I deserve that too. We just weren't going to find it together. The last time I looked at the original post, her post, the one with the barbecue photo, someone had replied to my comment far down in the thread. They'd written, "This is either the most mature response I've ever seen or the most devastating. Can't figure out which." I thought about it for a while, decided it was probably both, and moved on.